Sorry for the pause. Video number 2, take 2. I was interrupted by my dog's obsessive itching in the last take because my dog got bit by a or stung or something along those lines. Anyway, this video is going to be about pro wrestling again, as many of them will. I was talking in the last video about well, you didn't get to see it, but it was about the major stars who I've met. I'll go back to that in another video, but I don't want to spend another 8 minutes talking about wrestlers who I've met, which I didn't upload. So let's start fresh. Going to talk a little bit about the Atlantic Canadian wrestling scene. One thing that I strongly dislike, majorly dislike, is when fans, local fans that I know they're fans of professional wrestling. They talk about Daniel Bryan, they talk about CM Punk, they talk about Austin Aries, they talk about all these guys that worked their way up through the independent wrestling shows. And whenever there's an independent wrestling show in the area, they never attend. They're all about supporting these independent wrestlers. They're all about talking about the discussion boards and all about pushing these independent stars. But then when an independent company comes along that has some of the same wrestlers that have appeared on the cards as these guys, no, they don't invest, which it doesn't make sense to me. Guys that could make it to major independent companies, I don't expect WWE to notice somebody unless they make it to a major independent company, and the major independent companies are companies like Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor is really producing some major talent. Dragon Gate USA, NWA Hollywood, NWA Wildside. You really have to make it to the Shakira. You have to make it to one of those major level players in order to be noticed by the WWE. WWE shouldn't be responsible for scouting at every milk and cranny small circus town or circus that comes along. And I know they have their developmental company down in Florida Championship Wrestling. Some guys that I think could make it from this area, and I'm not trying to have the talent here be rated, but I'd like to see these guys go as far as they can. Matt Titus. Titus is probably 6'3", 6'4". He's a high flyer. He's a hardcore specialist. He's athletically gifted. He's marketable. He has the long dreadlocks. He really knows ring psychology well, and trained by Emile Dupree, the father of Rene Dupree of La Resistance. Matt Titus, he could go all the way to Ring of Honor. I'm sure he'd be a perfect fit for Ring of Honor. I mentioned already to Kerry Selkin. Hopefully, Kerry Selkin gave me some good advice to pass along. I'm hoping Titus can really, I don't know him personally, so this is what I'm doing. I'm saying, like, straight up, Titus could work for anyone. Second to Titus, I think, would be a wrestler who was also trained by Emile Dupree, Julian Young. Julian Young, he doesn't have the look that Titus has, but what he has is great scientific wrestling. His ground game, his mat skills, he can chain wrestle. I'd love to see him in there with some of the best, Sami Callihan, or put him in there with Tyson Dukes, put him in there with some serious wrestlers. I'd love to see Kid Cash, like Jerry Lynn, somebody like that, a veteran that could like really give it a go with him, because I saw a match with him and Luke Robinson, and it was unbelievable. He's a real competitor. Julian Young. I don't know if he'd be marketed the right way like Titus could, but he'd be a real worker. Then you have Alexander Saint, who Alexander Saint, what he wants to, I had the chance to speak to him. What he wants to do is his dream is to make it to Mexico, and he's fully capable of doing that. Mexico is a huge market right now for both WWE and TNA, probably only second or if not first to India. AAA, CMLL, one of those two companies, Alexander Stain would be a perfect fit. You know, if he sends the tapes, if he really, you know, if if promoters would back him, or if he could get some sponsors on board, I'm sure he'd deliver, and I'm sure, you know, he could make his dreams come true. Alexander Saint is a high flyer. To describe his stats, he's probably about 5'11", 202 pounds. Specialties are all high flying. His drop kicks are unreal. He can almost land on his feet after doing a drop kick. I'm sure he probably could if somebody challenged him to. He can do off the top rope, split-legged corkscrew moonsault, otherwise like John Morrison's Starship Pain. But honestly, I've seen him do it better than Morrison, and that's not a knock against Morrison. That's just how good he is. So Alexander Saint, high flyer all the way. Then you have the veterans. You have Cowboy Mike Hughes, Brody Steele, the Cardinal Sinners. Cowboy Mike Hughes is the guy that is the most successful right now in Atlantic Canada. He's a veteran of the ring. He's a good worker. I've seen him really work, like really, instead of just playing to the crowd, which he does so well. But besides playing to the crowd, I've seen him like go out there and give a solid like 20-minute action-packed match where he couldn't go outside the ring because there was limited security and the kids were running around the ring. And so I saw him really work out there, and he's a big guy. He's like 6'4", 6'5", actual height, 260 pounds. And I saw him move around that ring like, you know, he was 6'2", or he was 220 pounds, I guess. Brody Steele, probably the most well-known. Peter Smith, aka Kingman. Pure powerhouse. He's been all over the world. He's been on shows with Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson. He knows the European scene well. He really knows his business, and he doesn't take shit from anybody. Can I say that? Yeah, okay. Doesn't take shit from anybody. Then you have guys like Riddick Stone, powerful man. Lincoln Steen, probably the most fan interactive, charismatic. He he he'd be the king of catchphrases, really. Great wrestler, not the best ring shape, but that kind of adds to the character. The Lincoln Steen character is the most developed character in Atlantic Canada, which is cool, and that's what makes him my favorite. He doesn't have the best win-loss record, but he's not, to look at him like you'd think, oh wow, this guy just bought a pair of tights and went in the ring and got big bushy hair, but he can wrestle. And yeah, that's basically me talking. You know, I got into a discussion on Dan Murphy, who writes for Pro Wrestling Illustrated, somebody who I brag about in my real life, who I've talked to on Facebook, and I got into a discussion on his wall with Kenny Casanova about Cowboy Mike Hughes deserving a spot on the 500th, and Casanova, I don't think he knows his stuff at all, man. I live here. I go to the shows. I follow the companies around here, and yeah, there's some real talent around here that's being overlooked based on geography. So anyway, that's my spiel, and I don't know. Tell me what you think.